Did you recline quite a bit?
No, I didn't.
Did you go down?
No, I've been trying to go up in front. I've been trying to be intended. No, so I'll sit there.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our new home. So this is the Library Advisory Board meeting for Monday, July 15th. Here at Bisbee City Hall, 915 South Tocqueville Road. And Cinda's excused, and I'll just go through the rest. Will Brundtland,
Hi.
Jennifer Johnson,
Hi.
Susan Matthews, it's not here, Joan Reichel,
Here.
Donna Wortel,
Here.
and our staff liaison, our city council liaison, Bill Higgins, is not here. I'm here, and Allison is on vacation, so she will not be here tonight. So we missed the last meeting, so we're going way back for the approval of the meeting, the minutes from December. Is that right? Which were emailed to you, so if we can approve those.
Well, so moved. I mean, I move we approve those meetings. I mean, in minutes.
Sure, and I'll second it.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so correspondence and communications. Does anyone have anything? Jen, do you want to speak on altered books?
Well, let's see. Yes, I spoke with friend Irene Newland today, and she's all excited. She'll be bringing she and Don have made 2 items to donate to the event, and I'm sure they'll be very fun items. And it will be at Central School on Saturday, August 31st, and artists bring their things the day or two before. I don't have that information in front of me, but they bring their pieces beforehand, and then they're put in the room. If you've not been to the altered books,
I have been a couple of times.
so but for the
Thank you, though.
well-being, everybody, it's a wonderful event. A lot of people really say it's their favorite, and lots of people participate, so that's good. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome fundraiser, and
Right, it's a fundraiser.
yeah, it's very creative. It's I think one of the most creative shows in town that I believe. I'm biased. And then call to the public. We have no public. And old business, we have none, but we do have new business. So I compiled for the fiscal year the statistics, and there's a couple sheets. One is the colorful, easy to see all of our great work in graphics, and the other one is just a breakdown of staffing and checkouts. It also includes some things that aren't on the colorful one. And actually, I might have done that wrong. This one looks different from this other one. Anyway, we had a stellar year. Total checkouts is 65,381. And compared to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, in 2015, that's 40% more checkouts. So we're super busy. And we're up in every category that it's amazing. I mean, even DVDs, which you didn't think that we could check out anymore, we have, we broke 30,000 for DVDs, which is just pretty amazing. And kids books, which are also at the bottom, you'll see a breakdown of the different categories of the children's library. And we're really up. I mean, look at just nonfiction has more than doubled for the juvenile checkouts. Fiction is doing really well, and then a whole new category, over 1,000 checkouts of graphic novels, which didn't exist in 2015. So that's pretty impressive. I'm super proud of everything is the kids' checkouts. We're doing really well with that. Visits are up. Program attendees are way up, about 50%. Allison has put together. We had some bigger events like the ice cream social at the San Jose Annex, which just added a huge group of attendees to that statistic. And we're consistently having those quite often. Last week for the BISBE 17 all-day panels, I mean, we had 5 programs, and we had probably about 40 people at each program throughout the day. So that's, I mean, it's amazing. We're really, people are genuinely excited about
I
our
think about getting
programs.
astronauts to come on down.
Oh, and the Mark Kelly event,
Yeah.
which we had, I think 120 people
Yeah.
show up at that. So that's amazing, and that was an awesome event. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And I just got an email from our county librarian, and she said that she was compiling the statistics for the e-content, and that BISBE jumped for people checking out ebooks and e-audiobooks, I think from 1,700 to about 3,500 in the last year. So that's catching on. Yeah. For everyone that said that no, I'll never give up the book. People are going to the e-readers, which is really good because it is. I'm a book person too, but I do like to load it up, my iPad up on before trips and stuff like that because it's very easy to take with. And then this other sheet, this library value calculator. Libraries use this. This is actually from. This is created by the Massachusetts Library Association, and it's endorsed by the American Library Association. And what it does, it gives a monetary value to each checkout. So instead of someone actually buying a book or someone buying a movie ticket or attending a program, since everything is free at the library, which we love, but this actually gives a value, so people can actually see what kind of return on investment. So if our library budget last year was $175,298, we have a value of use that's $1,067,224. So that's actually really, for people who really understand and read money, sometimes that's the only thing that speaks to them. This is a perfect tool to go and show them, especially you could go, I could take this, which I will, but to the city manager and to city staff and be like, and council members, like this is the money you gave us and this is what we did to it. Now, obviously, this isn't real money. We don't see that. But I think that's a really cool thing to actually show.
Is this something that these guys just came up with, or is it
It's
just...
Yeah, libraries have been using it for a while. And some of them are just too impossible. Like we're underestimating ourselves. Like we do have a statistical number for books borrowed, but for magazines read and newspapers read, I just put, like if one person read one magazine a day, and obviously it's way more than that. And the same thing, we don't keep track of everyone that picks up a newspaper, but instead of them having to go and buy that newspaper, that they are actually able to come and read that for free. Books are awesome. I mean, $351,000 in books. The publishing company would hate to see that figure. And we're just a small library. I mean, imagine what huge city libraries, what their checkouts are. So it's really interesting. And things that maybe you don't think about, the like meeting room use, that we allow nonprofits and civic organizations to use our meeting rooms, and there's actually a number that goes with that. And that's also more than 52. We have groups that meet regularly at the library, and we just never keep track of that, so that's something in the future that I can actually keep track of. And ticket prices to get into one of our programs, they have it $15 for an adult program, which is just awesome. I mean, that's $67,000 in value. So that's
cool.
interesting that you can share that with people. I think that's really cool.
Do you have any idea, Jason, how this number, or sort of the relationship between the budget and the value of the library would compare to libraries of comparable size? Because I would imagine, based on how well the library is utilized and run, it's a pretty good number.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't, and I can figure that out and just see, what they call it just the return on investment, the percentage, and that's something that, if libraries do have that published. I know, I'm always interested in see how
And it's
the
more of
libraries.
curiosity versus
Yeah.
a call to do
Yeah,
the
just see if
extra work.
that
Yeah.
may be a very average return on investment, or that may be above
I think it's a
average.
pretty good one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wish I could do that, make that in real money. But that is a good question. And I did speak to Amity Ricketts. She's our county librarian, and not in specifics, but I asked her because our circulation has gone up over the past 4 years each year. And I just wondered if that was a trend across the county, and she said that in some libraries, yes, but a lot of libraries, the circulation is in fact going down. So we're doing something right, that's, and, but yeah, she's always impressed with our numbers, so that makes
That
sense.
probably answers that question
Yeah,
right there.
Right. Any questions on the statistics?
And just for my reference, the annex opened when?
Well, the annex opened in, that's a good question. The annex opened in December.
Okay.
So we're.
That represents a half of the fiscal
Yeah.
year. Mhm.
Yes. And that's a really exciting statistic that I love statistics, and at the beginning of every month, our computer system sends us reports, and it's like, I'm so excited to see, like, and the annex is one of those because it is a new thing. And, I think, I mean, that is going to go, that's going to grow. I mean, I think we average about 400 checkouts a month. And for a new endeavor, if you think about a small business that's opening, I'm happy with that. I was really pleasantly surprised when I saw what's getting checked out. And that's continued to grow as well, just in terms of people using it. And again, it's just getting the word out. I mean, there's still people in Bisbee that don't know we have a library in Old Bisbee. So that just goes with word of mouth and getting the word out. Staffing report. So I'm happy to say, so Heather Weichert, her family moved on to Maryland. She was our Annex Early Literacy Outreach Coordinator. And we just had interviews, and Samantha Gerlich, who was our part-time 10-hour-a-week person working Fridays and Saturdays, has been offered the job. She interviewed, and we're super, super excited to have her now as our annex person. She's got ideas, and she's full of energy, and it's exactly what we need. So super excited about that. And I know Joan has.
Yeah, I've worked with Samantha, and
Yeah.
I find her very interesting to work with. And how many hours is she hired?
She's going to be working 19 and a half hours.
So most of her time will be spent in the annex?
Yes. And also, she's going to be, so the way that will work is she'll be doing the programs that are there on Mondays, open play, Wednesdays, the little book club, and Thursdays, the STEAM class. And then she'll be coordinating some other things, but also then she'll be the point person for our outreach, going to the schools and the preschools and special events that are happening, like the back to school type thing.
I mean, the outreach part is, I'm not gonna belabor it, but the outreach part is very important. San Jose area is not used to having a library.
Yes.
And San Jose, to me, the young mothers who are from either Head Start or Trinity Preschool, and I've done a little variety of projects in Gay 90s or in the Naco School, and it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of effort. And transportation might be a big challenge, part of that.
Yeah.
And also Spanish speakers. I'm not a Spanish speaker, I can get by, but it's an important connection.
Yeah.
And so it will be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help in any way that I can, and
that
see
is,
how that goes.
That is a good point, that they're not used to having a library over there, and that is the hardest thing. When I've been over there, I've had people come in, and it's even like the concept of a library, like that these things, like I can go home with these things and then bring them back. Like, it's very interesting, and it's like at a very basic level that we have to, really get that out
The
there.
education
and push
the education that has to happen is going to be intense.
Yeah.
What do I want to say? Preschool, Head Start has monthly meetings. It's possible people could go to those monthly meetings.
Yeah.
Not that a lot of parents show up, but I've been on the school bus going from Head Start down to Naco to give out books and
Yeah.
to talk about the Annex Library. People are very polite and very respectful, but it's just not something that's common.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a lot of effort.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Samantha is a really good fit with that, because
I think she's got the
I think it's gonna be
potential to do
good.
that. And again, just commenting, if I may, it's interesting that Head Start is not on Friday and Trinity is not on Friday, so there's little programs. So to have a program on Friday at the Annex is going to be an important, I mean, it's at least, right now, it's not there. So something has to happen to make that move forward.
Yeah, I don't know. And Dawn, have you been to our Annex location?
I have not,
Okay.
no.
But you know the idea of it's an old middle school. We have a classroom, and over the summer, Cochise County 4-H took a classroom, and the Bisbee Science Lab, which is a new endeavor, took a classroom. So they actually, the Bisbee Science Lab was doing programming this summer on Fridays, and that has brought in a lot of people through our space to get to their space. So we're just super excited to have neighbors now in our hallway. And so I think the momentum is starting to build, and I think people are beginning to see the potential of this space and this working with partnerships of working with the library, working with the science lab, whoever it might be. But that it has huge potential for that neighborhood. I mean, this is just the beginning, and we're ready to push ahead and really push for this.
Maybe one last comment. In terms of the Bisbee School District, they don't have school on Friday, but Naco has school on Friday. So, the potential to have Bisbee school kids with some form of transportation, let's say, to get them to that event. And then you have to have Saturday. And I mean, I'm just commenting, the Naco kids, unless you're open till 5:30, 6, or, I mean, again, I'm not, I'm just.
No, I know. Well, I mean, this is
commenting, because those kids aren't gonna go
Yeah.
unless some other arrangement is made.
Yeah.
Well, the Friday, that's a very interesting opportunity, because you think about that open time where
But a parent or somebody
Has to get
bring
them there, and the
Yes,
transportation is the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm curious to see what the Bisbee Science Lab is gonna do after the summer goes.
Right.
Because they got a grant to give bus passes to children, and, you know, at this point, I feel like we're all one big family, so it doesn't matter if one entity does a program, it's
Right.
bringing people,
Right.
you know, it's so much easier to have partners that, you know, working together to bring people in. If, you know, it doesn't matter if they're specifically coming to the library or coming through the library
Right.
to go to the science lab, you know, and come back through and be like, oh, hey, I want to check that book out on my way out. I think,
Right,
you know,
they're in this learning
right,
environment.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like,
Exactly.
But
brought 'em in.
that bus is very limited, that bus is very
Yes,
limited.
yes.
And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many Hispanic moms will get on that bus with a 3-year-old, or with a 5-year-old, or with
Yeah.
or a grandmother, you know, so
Yeah.
that's who's taking care of the kids. Who's gonna get on that bus?
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the neighborhood, you know, there's apartments across the street. We've done really well for people who live really close by. First of all, they've seen us there and they know we're there, but beyond that, that's the hard part. So,
So Samantha has a good set of ideas that she wants to try, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to help her, whatever she wants to do.
yeah. And that, and I also want to mention, so in the between Heather leaving and us hiring Samantha, we've had super volunteers, including Joan, they took over Heather's programs that she designed. So Joan took over the open play, which is on Mondays, and we had Linda Marshall take over, and Joan helped too with the Little Book Club, and Rhea Scott did the science STEAM class. So we have an amazing resource right there that everyone just jumped in and made sure that we didn't miss a beat in terms of kids coming and seeing that, oh, that nothing's, you know, our program's not going on.
Okay, yeah, and that's a good point. And the target audience that we're working with is preschool to 5 years old. That's what these programs are being offered for, is that target audience. Because if you, theoretically, if you get the kids early to read and to have the lap moment, it's not go over there and read. It's you're on my lap and we're having a good time. That's what's happening with reading. You know, whether we read the story or we don't read the story, doesn't really matter. What matters is there's that emotional connection, and then you build on that. And that is, so there is a library story time in Old Bisbee on Fridays, and I volunteer for that once a month. But out here, it'll be interesting to see what we can do or what comes up for a Friday for even a little older kid.
Yeah.
I mean, at 5 years old, you know, that's a good group, but then if you have a first grader, second grader, or third grader, and the kids need the help. And so you need to have some other project for those kids to do,
Right.
or an organized project.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the schools don't have very good libraries. I'm not downing them, I'm just saying they're not open all the time. They're not allowed to take out more books than such and such. And so it's the kids' interaction in the library, I think, and again, I have limited experience, is very limited. So whatever you're doing out there in the annex is going to have a really big impact.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a huge effort to engage parents too. Like Joan said, it's not like you go over there and read now and I'm gonna just sit here. It's getting the parents to interact with the children and to teach the parents how to teach their children. So it's multifaceted. So it's a good endeavor.
It's a great endeavor.
Yeah.
Great endeavor.
So with Samantha taking over that, so we have back our 10-hour-a-week position back open. So it's just a small working Fridays and Saturdays. If anyone knows of anyone who's interested, they can apply at the City of Bisbee website. And it's a great little job for someone who is retired.
So when is it for?
It's working Fridays and Saturdays. Friday being at the annex and Saturdays in Old Bisbee.
So it's the part-time library assistant position that you have listed here,
Yes.
10 hours a week.
Yes, exactly.
So that person will work at the annex on Friday?
Like Sam did.
Okay.
So that's a perfect opportunity for that person to engage in a program on Fridays.
But Saturday they work in Old Bisbee?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And everything else is going well with staff. The programs, like we talked about, we've got our summer reading going on, and we did start a summer reading program at the annex this summer on Thursdays. Attendance has been light, but again, it's one of those new things that, it was really hard to get. It's hard in any library to get kids to come and, especially when you're like those older kids. But there's a core group. I was out there last Thursday. We partnered with Zach Palma from the Coronado National Memorial. So he's been coming and he's doing, they did a whole program around bats last Thursday, which I thought was really cool. So it's nice to have that. It's kind of, they're very outdoorsy kind of ecological programs that he's doing. So it's been great to work with him. He's always been really, really good about working with us, which is, I think, is really cool. And he's done the preschool story hour as well. And then our regular summer reading has been going well. We're actually, I can't believe it, but we're a couple weeks away from school starting back up. And so if not, we've got a program this week, and then the following Wednesday is our end of summer reading barbecue and pool party. And we'll be sending invites out for that. But, the fire department is going to be barbecuing for us. So we're going to have vegetarian options as well.
You have a pool in your backyard?
The city pool. So that'll be fun, and we're going to have the high school band is going to play, and then we're going to have other activities. We're going to have the pickleball rackets and balls up there, and we're going to be doing some plein air painting, and then kids can use the pool. And their families are invited as well, and everyone gets into the pool for free that day. So that'll be fun. And then just highlights from the programs, like I mentioned, the Mark Kelly event, which was super cool. And we've got we have the Bisbee 17 panels, which is really good. That DVD is ready for checkout starting tomorrow. If anyone's interested, everyone's been waiting for that. And what do we got coming up? We've got, we're already looking towards our second annual Haunted Library.
Yeah.
So we'll be having planning meetings on that in September. And another cool thing that Allison's doing with the older kids this summer is there's a video challenge that some of our teenage patrons are putting together, a promotional video for Copper Queen Library. And we have one of our teen patrons who now goes to the Northern Arizona University, who's studying film, is helping them put that together. So that needs to be submitted at the beginning of August, and I know there's a lot of different elements that they are putting in that, and I'm anxious to see the final product, but it should be really cool. I know there's some stop animation things going on. They were up in the stacks last week filming random things, and I think it's going to be a very interesting, unique, and creative endeavor, so that should be we'll have it on I think we talked about forming a library YouTube page, and that'll be our first, and then we've been part for a while. But that could be the beginning of something new. And then the budget update, so the budget was passed. The exciting thing is that early literacy coordinator position that was started with a Freeport-McMoran grant, the city agreed to fund that position out of the city budget. So we were wondering where that was going to go after the grant expired, and so now this is a city position. So we're super excited about that.
What's the salary?
It's minimum wage, but which will go up to $12 an hour in January, I think.
So this year, will Samantha be paid through that,
To the city,
the city?
yeah.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, so that's, you know, I really didn't spend too much time thinking about what would happen if they didn't do that.
How did
Because
that happen? Was something arm twisted or?
No,
They consistent?
they have been so super supportive of the library over the past few years, and they were on board immediately. I mean, I think, you know, they see the importance of it, and, you know, it's like, again, it's like this, it's like you're not getting it, we're not an enterprise fund, they're not getting any money back, but I think they see the impact on.
Is there anybody
all these-
here in this room right now who would sort of pat himself on the back for it? No?
No.
Nobody seems to?
No, I mean,
No, I just think it's pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And everything else pretty much stays the same in the budget. No, I mean, we were just happy that there was no cuts to our budget. So I was really
That's
careful in, you know, having our priority, which was to fund that position, and the rest that we could just deal with, you know, with last year's budget.
Jason, was that Freeport grant, was that a one-time,
Yeah,
so one and done?
yep.
Okay.
And then, if no one has any questions, I want to spend some time looking at this possible policy change, which is the eliminating fines for juvenile library patrons. I had emailed you this a while back as a possibility of approaching, if you guys will sign off on it, then I can approach the Bisbee City Council and the mayor and see if they would actually put this into the city code. Basically, I did a lot of research online and seeing what other libraries do. This is a trend for libraries that we're trying to encourage kids to check out books and materials and to read them. And what's happening is, if you remember when you were a child, you know, you get overdue fines, and I think it's working against us in terms of building this relationship with kids, and to actually encourage them to feel comfortable in the library. What happens is kids will run up a fine, they're unable to pay it, and we never see them again. This doesn't happen to all of them, but this happens to quite a few of them, and I sometimes think that this is the population of kids that we most need to serve. And you know, our fines really they are only 10 cents a day per item. This stuff does add up. I've seen it add up quite shockingly sometimes. I mean, if you're past due a week, if you're past due 10 days and you have 5 books checked out, I mean, you're already up to $5. Doesn't sound like a lot maybe to you and me, but to some people that's, you know, deciding between paying my library fine or putting food on the table. I think it's really important. that we address this, and I included in here that we would also erase past fines off of juvenile patrons' library accounts. This does not include anything that is either lost or damaged. If you lose a book, you still have to replace it. But these are fines that over time have added up and are keeping our kids from using the library. And not to say that, so now this isn't just like a free ride, like I get to check something out and I never have to bring it back. There are consequences. There are still overdue notices that go out for anything that's overdue. But in terms of, I think there's two really important things here, is that kids continue to check out things, and that, what's the other one? I just had it. And that we also get our materials back, so that other people can check them out as well. So, did any of you have any comments or suggestions? I know some of you had emailed me back and let me know of your suggestions.
Just as a thought, if you're at the desk and the child comes up with their books and they want to check them out because they have a new pile of books here, and you look at their screen, and then you see that, they still have 3 books out, then they owe, $1, whatever. So then how do you proceed to discuss that with that child, obviously depending on the age? And then it's one thing to discuss it with the child who's 9 by themselves.
Right.
It's another to discuss it with a 10-year-old who happens to be with their parent at that moment, or their grandparent. So it's
Right.
You don't have to tell me everything, I'm just looking at
No,
the
but
scenario.
that's a good question, because right now it's library policy, if your fines are $5 or more, that is supposed to prevent you from checking out anything else until you pay your fines down. And it kills me to, to not be able to check something out to someone who is seriously interested in reading, or, and obviously, and also you can work with us, we will let you check something out if you are actively paying your fines down, or, if you say that you're going to bring in and pay the fine down next time. It creates such a barrier, and it creates such an awkward position for both kids and parents. And then you're saying to the parent, well, you need to pay this fine down, and maybe the parent just doesn't have that money that month, and so then they look bad in terms of they can't pay their fine down for the child, and then the child can't check something out, in return.
Is there a limit on the number of books that a child can have checked out at any given time?
There is, I want to say that's 25
Okay.
items.
Okay, so it's a generous number.
It's a generous number, yeah.
So-
And we're really lax about that, because we really want people the freedom to, and some parents check out big piles of picture books,
Right.
And,
And that's more time their children are spending looking at books
Yeah.
versus looking at an electronic device.
yeah.
Well, having been a librarian at a school, and sort of a free-spirited one, I'm not a librarian by degree, but I was a mom of a great reader, and was offered a part-time job at a school library. And one of the first things that I did was sort of break that rule, that there's not a limit on the number of books.
Yeah.
The kids could only have 2 books. My goodness, if they wanted more than 2 books, because they love to read, encourage it. So with the fine issue, and to your point, because it's not a free pass to check out as many books as you want and accrue these fines, right? We want the kids to enjoy reading, we want them to love to come to the library, we don't want them to feel penalized, but they have to understand that they have a responsibility, or their parents have a responsibility to return books. Right? So what I would do, because I started to kind of get into hot water with some of the teachers and only wanted the kids to have 2 books. So I just made a real simple system, and you'll think of a better system than this, but, you know, for up to a certain age, it was just a little, like a little bookmark thing that
Mhm.
we made that you tuck in and said, oops, looks like I have 4 books at home. You know, please return those to the library.
Right.
It was just one of those reminders to a busy mom, like, oh yeah, we do have books.
Right.
And then, you know, and then it sort of, that conversation progressed up based on age. So if you're sitting there with a 6th grader that loves to read, and sometimes those are the kids that need the books the most because that's how they escape.
Right.
Then you sit and you talk with them one-on-one, and you say, hey, look, you've got 40 books out, and
Yeah.
I know you love to read, but can you return? So I think fines and making it punitive for kids to come to the library is something I wouldn't do at all. Having a conversation about being responsible with the
Right.
materials, that's a teachable moment.
Right. And like I said, yeah, it's not like a free pass to
Yeah,
do whatever
just-
you want. And like I said, there's still overdues. You know, there wouldn't be any overdue fines, but you would still have an overdue book that needs to be returned to the library, you know. And those email notices would be sent out, and we use the parent's email when it's a child who doesn't have their email address, that, you know, that these books are due and need to be returned to the library. And just to let you know what other, the Cochise County Library District that runs the little rural branches, they don't have fines for any of their materials, including the adults. You know, so I reached out to Amity, the Cochise County librarian, and asked, you know, what she thought of this, and she was like, well, we don't have any fines, you know. Same thing, like if you lose or you damage a library, a material, you have to replace it, but in terms of being fined for having something late, they don't do.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Now, it looks like just reading this, there's no fine, but after 2 months, you gotta pay for the book.
Right, so what happens, our computer system, if a book is checked out, after 3 notices that are sent out, then it goes to assumed lost. And then the patron is fined, is charged the cost of that book, yeah.
The other thing I have, I've actually gotten in that hassle at the Sierra Vista Library because I like to use their automatic ones. And if I get a stack of books, I check it out, start over, check it out. So I have a little piece of paper.
Oh.
And I've had libraries tell me, no, you don't have to do that. You can do them all at once.
But you're doing it so each
I'm
book
doing it
has
because, yeah, so the idea that I have a stack of 10 books, well, I don't read them all at once. And I know I'm an old fuddy-duddy, and I'd rather do it with a piece of paper that I can see.
Yeah.
But, so, the idea that children have a stack of books that's due, maybe children have, these are due, and these aren't due.
Yeah. You know, that changes from family to family, but I know parents that like the really long receipt, because then they can just go around and check off when they come back and be like, you know, but I understand what you're saying too, where when you find a book and it doesn't have anything in it, it's like, well, when is this due?
Yeah, but here it is, yeah. It's so that concept, although I know it's an electronic age.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
People are gonna be reminded.
Right.
I get reminded by you guys. So.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just say another comment, you know, with that, at the annex, again, if people are not used to using the library, that's not something, they're gonna, oh, I lost that paper. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know where it is, or the dog ate it, or any number of things.
Yeah.
And, you know, so maybe they'll bring the book back 2
Yeah.
months late, because that's how it
Yeah.
works.
But you will get your email reminder.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And
so you
they'll
do
need
get
to
like,
they'll need to be aware of that
right,
too,
right.
you know.
It's a whole education thing, you know.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, you will get an email reminder that your materials are about due. Now we have automatic renewals.
Mhm.
That's something that the county just instituted, so And that's thrown people off, because people, they know that their book is due here at this date, and then all of a sudden you get a notice saying like, this book has been automatically renewed for you. Yeah, and then people are like, wait, what? And they think that I am doing it. They think I'm sitting in the middle of the night.
Jason's great.
Yeah. Because they go out in the middle of the night and it's
How
like,
did he know I wanted to keep reading?
and I get these responses, hey, thanks for doing that. And it's like, well, I didn't do it. But yeah, it's an education thing of getting people used to a certain way of doing things. I also wanted to mention, so right before the end of the school year, we had 2 huge groups of high school students come in from Bisbee High School, and I think we had 40 one day and 40 the next. And while we had them there, they were doing a school report, and we quickly made a survey for them to fill out, and one of the questions was why, I forget how we had it, but what don't you like about the library, or what keeps maybe you from coming to the library? And one of the things that we put in responses was overdue fines, and we had a majority of kids circle that as a reason why they don't use the library. And when these kids were, they had a very nice teacher, and the teacher allowed them to check out for those who didn't have library cards, and we did try to get everyone a library card, or for those who had fines. Again, we're talking about a student trying to do their report, and they're unable to check out a book to do their report because they have fines. I think that was the perfect example of, like, there's something wrong here. So now we're not allowing the student to check out a book, and then this student doesn't do their report. It's just it's like a cascading, and we can stop it here by at least, getting the materials to them. If we're offering equal and free access to information, then I really want this to happen. I really do. If you were in my position and you had to try to tell, because it is our job to, when you have a fine, is to let you know, and these are the consequences, and but it kills me. It's just to, like, you explain to a little kid why they can't check out a book. It's terrible.
Yeah. Again, thinking, I don't know the whole idea, but I don't know what the Greenway policy is for overdue books, or the high school policy, or Lowell's policy. I mean, they probably have a policy that if they are charging money or not charging money, that, I mean, they could learn from that, but maybe they're not charging money. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't blame them for having overdue materials, because if you look at my account, it's embarrassing, because I have overdue materials, and so it's like, if someone that works there can't get their books back on time, I'm there every single day. Like, I understand stuff comes up, time does fly. It's like, I just checked that book out, how could it be due already? There's, and they're not excuses, they're just, it's life. Life gets in the way, and I did kind of map out just the impact of it, which is very small. The money that would be lost in collecting overdue materials is very minimal. And again, that's looking, money is very relative, and what we have and don't have, and what we can put aside for paying overdue fines and what we can't.
So the risk would be $480 per year, approximately.
Yeah.
That you're saying that's how much, if you looked at your budget,
If the city asks, like, what,
how much did you collect from children, from young adults? You've collected $480 in fine a year.
right, say, yeah.
That's very minimal. That's very
Just generally speaking.
I mean, it's nice if people make a donation. Oh, my book's overdue, I'll give you $5.
Right.
I mean.
Right, it kind of evens
You can
out.
go that way.
And that's what it mean, like the difference between someone who $5 to them is like, I'll just donate it anyway, and to someone $5 is like, you can't do it. you know?
No.
Couple more questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Two things. Where did the four notices in 2 months come from, is one. And the other, is there any history of collecting books that have been damaged or stuff? Is there any, like, yeah, we always have good luck when we have it, or we rarely do it, or is there any?
For people replacing books that they...
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, that's easy to say, you know, like this, you know, if you lose something.
But I'm wondering, in the past, like, is the library
Oh,
had to do it, like 20 times a year, or
Yeah.
almost never, or all the time?
No,
or-
it's hard to say, but again, that's, you know, that's even a lot more
It
money.
hasn't happened enough so that this would be important to put in this stuff, that thing wasn't.
Yeah, when I talked to other libraries, that was something, we want our materials back.
Mhm.
So, because they do belong to everyone. I mean, if we're teaching something, I think that's an important thing to teach, is that libraries are for everyone. So, this one book is actually for the entire town.
Plus, getting a replacement cost doesn't automatically mean, okay, the book's back, it's just something, there's just something that's happening. I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
And the 2 months and the four notices, are those some things that other people have done, you said?
Yeah, that's how it works now. Like, you never have overdue books, but like you get after your third notice, your next notice is like, oh, these haven't been returned, so we're going to assume that they're lost, and then here are your replacement fees.
I don't want to sound like some old Scrooge type.
Yeah,
But I just would like to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
yeah.
don't have any more info. In case we're gonna, if this turns into a vote here, I don't know how to.
So Jason, excuse me, are the overdue notices coming from the Copper Queen Library? Is that where they're coming from?
It's the Cochise County Library District. It's all automatic with our computer system that they get sent out.
And maybe there's been a little glitch with the one card.
There has been some strange
Situation,
things, yeah, and there was another glitch, but yeah, I think that's all kind of evening out, I hope so.
Yeah, I
And then
can't
the-
use my Bisbee card at Sierra Vista on the machines. I have to talk to a person every time. The Bisbee machines don't, or my card isn't recognized.
Is that right?
It's okay, yeah.
That's not
And they said they'd fix it, or they're working on it.
The other, when I spoke to a couple of librarians, the other thing they brought up was that we should make it, and this is from something that they learned, it's not, how do I put this, it's not a juvenile library card, won't have fines, it's juvenile materials that are checked out. So this prevents someone, a parent, using their kid's card to check out their own stuff.
Sure.
Right,
It's
right.
actually, it would
It's
only,
juvenile materials.
it would only work for juvenile materials. And that's something, I talked to the county, and because they do our whole computer system, that's something easy that they can do. So only juvenile materials don't accrue fines. So yeah, you don't have like someone like checking out a bunch of movies and books and be like, oh no, I'm going to use my kid's card for this. Yeah. So it doesn't matter actually what card, a parent checking out, you know, it would work for a parent checking out juvenile materials on their card, or it would work for a little kid coming in with their own card and checking out a juvenile material. So I thought that was a really smart way to avoid some kind of weird, you know, it's like no, let's put it on this card, you know. So that adult materials wouldn't be getting a free pass. You know. I want to keep it to children. Any other questions? So I guess, do we vote? I guess we would have to vote on this.
Let's do it. That's the reason that you're bringing this to us, and that reason is such a good reason, and and all the little nitpicking stuff that, well, what about this? Yeah, fine, but that's such a good reason that, I foresee a unanimous vote here, that's what I see.
Yeah, I would vote yes on that, Jason.
So, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we motion?
Do we
Should we do it
Yeah,
officially?
yeah.
Do a motion, oh, I can do that, oh, let's see, how do you phrase that for Cindy? A motion, I propose the motion to eliminate fines for juvenile library
Oh,
patrons.
yes, I second that.
Materials.
Materials, you're eliminating the fine for juvenile library patron materials.
And I will change that on, yeah.
0 to 18.
I second.
Okay. There you go.
So.
Is it then all in favor?
Aye.
Those
We
opposed?
voted twice. Now there's 10
Yeah.
people here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. I think it's a good step in our mission. I mean, yeah, I think it's long overdue. And then, before I realized Allison was not going to be here, but we were going to talk about the library strategic plan, which we have been so slow. I know, Donna, you met with us so long ago, and we've just been buried in other things, but we are putting together a 5-year strategic plan for the library so that we can give to the mayor and council so they know what our priorities are and also what we need. It's going to be broken down into different categories, but there'd be services and programs and facilities. And it's a lot to think about. And I know we were really working on it for a while, and then we let it go, and now it's been sitting somewhere. So we actually want to, it would probably be next time then, is to bring that for discussion, and I can, as we start finalizing things, email you out a draft copy so that you guys can look at. But Donna had met with us to give us some feedback and some direction, because it's, if you've never done one before, it's kind of daunting because you have this whole huge.
Well, you had it all down, but one of the nice things about, I mean, you know, the plan is a plan, but when you have that 5-year plan, and Jason was the one that, you know, we talked about this, is then you can apply for more grants. So then you can apply, then you can research and apply for grants from the Piper Foundation, for example, for transportation to, you know, I'm just thinking big picture, transportation to the early literacy programs at the annex. You know, and you tie that into the number of children that are poor and underserved in the community, and you know, and then all of a sudden, if you take the time, and they're a pain to do, but you know, once you get that done, not only are you have a blueprint for what you want to do with the city, but more importantly, you know, you were saying, well, every grant we apply for, we get, and it's like, let's apply for more. You know?
Right, and let's apply for some outside of our comfort zone as well.
Right.
You know. Yeah, and that's a really good point, and also I think it's important that the mayor and council know what kind of path that we're on, and also some of the issues that we have that we want resolved that they don't know about. I mean, I know they don't know about it. You know, some of the problems with the building, the aging. You know, it's well over 100 years old, and you know, the stuff is going to have to be looked at in terms of that, and that kind of like maps it out and kind of spells it out for everybody. So I think that's it's all really important. So we're going to continue to work on that. Actually, there's not much. Allison and I have both been taking notes individually, and we just have to put it together in the format that is accepted as a 5-year plan. So
you're saying you'll work on it and then
I'll send it out
us,
to,
so that
by
we'll have it
email,
right
just
here.
to, right now it's all my ideas out in words, and it doesn't even make sense. But it will. And I forgot to put an other, but I just wanted to give you a brief update on the Washington DC trip.
Oh,
Some of you
yes,
know
of course.
about it, but that was the end of June, and the Friends of the Library paid for me to go fly to Washington DC and stay in a hotel and attend the American Library Association conference, which I'm extremely grateful for. And it was so overwhelming. There were 25,000 library workers in Washington DC, and like it was just a sea of everything library. It was really cool, and it really was overwhelming. So I was able to go to the Library Association conference, and I attended workshops and talks and the expo, so everything was for sale. It had to do with anything in a library. It was extremely fascinating. Some of them were geared to really huge library systems, you know, like you walk by this whole conveyor belt system that returns books to different areas, and it's like, you know, and then you're walking by and you look interested, and they're like, oh, do you want my card? Like, you know, I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, that's, but it's fascinating that this computer system, they can scan a book, and it can, and Phoenix probably has this, but it'll go on a conveyor belt and go into a basket for reshelving. It'll check it back in for one thing, and then according to its subject matter, I think it's really cool. Huge, there were so many authors there that were doing book signings. The awards ceremony was Saturday morning, and our special guests were the Cochise County librarian, Amity Ricketts, and the Arizona State librarian, Holly Henley, were my guests. So they sat at, it was breakfast, and Ann Patchett was the keynote speaker.
Nice.
And she's an author. She wrote The Magician's Assistant. Anyway, she was awesome. Yeah, the whole thing was really quite fascinating. And so I was presented with the award, and it's kind of cool that with all those libraries represented there, that it was the Public Library Association's awards ceremony, and they probably gave out 6 awards to the entire country, and we were one of them. So it's,
Oh my God.
yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't think I understood like the gravity of it until I went there, and that was really, I felt,
Unique, remarkable.
yeah, that it was really cool. And then Anne had an advanced copy of her latest book that is not even out yet. It's called The Dutch House, and she was signing them. And Allison's a huge fan of Ann Patchett, so I had it signed for her, and she was freaking out. And then the other cool thing, Amity had bought me a ticket to go to the Caldecott Newberry banquet dinner, which is a very fancy ceremony. It's for the Children's Illustrators Award and the Juvenile Chapter Book Literary Award. And that was fantastic. That was actually probably my most favorite thing. We had dinner, and they had speeches from the illustrator, the best illustrator, and the one who won the Newbery, which is for juvenile literature. Their speeches were so impassioned, and like I felt like I was at the Oscars. Like they were much longer, and they had a lot more content than the Oscars. But
There was an intelligence. Yes.
but it was so moving. Like it's hard for me to explain. And then I don't know if Walter Dean Myers, he was an author, a children's author who passed away a few years ago, and his son, they honored him with an award of lifetime achievement, even though he passed on. And his son made a speech. I mean, it had everyone in tears. I mean, it was so good. And I came back with such an enthusiasm, you know, and I think it also, it gave me, like, you know, sometimes we get stuck in our little Bisbee bubble, you know, and you kind of forget the wider reaching, like, arms of, like, the just gigantic library system, and to know that we're a part of all that, I think it really kind of opened my eyes to that, because we are just so used to our little spot here, which is great, but to know that we have that huge support system and just the wealth of
Part of the
knowledge.
bigger
Yeah,
community.
that it was really cool. And I went to some really interesting panels and workshops, and really it's like a lot of it was in the convention center, which was gigantic. It's like 2 city blocks. I walked the day that I was in there. I walked, I think, 4 miles in the convention center. I mean, it was crazy.
Get your steps in, yeah.
And everything is so easy. It's all on an app, and you can look at the schedule, and you're like, well, I'm going to go check this out, and you know, you go in there, and if it's interesting, you can stay, and if not, you can just find something else to do. Everything, the rooms were gigantic, like just the amount of people in there. But they were all so super great. I went to a lot of kids, kind of kids themed. Like I went to a few like graphic novel symposiums. I went to one was Drag Queen Story Hour, but the bulk of it was more intellectual freedom. That was really quite fascinating. That was packed with people. And I went to something with libraries and gardening. I went to things that could actually like work, you know, and that pertain to our library. And it was great. It was exhausting. It was so exhausting, but so worth it. So I can't thank the Friends enough for
You're very welcome.
yeah, for doing that. That
It's a
was
good thing.
yeah.
It's a good thing.
I would never have been able to go without that. So that was really.
So Jason, when you look back, you reflect back on that time and that conference, you know, are there 5 to 10, you know, you pick the number, programs that you think, wow, I'd like those to be on the Bisbee Copper Queen wish list. So if you, so for example, the gardening one, obviously there's a great correlation there in
Yeah.
terms of the community. I'm sure there's other things that you went to that just aren't appropriate based on city size or demographics or whatever. But if you were able to identify 5 or whatever the number is, that can then become part of that 5-year plan conversation.
Right.
Because you've picked up things that you'd like to see happen, and
Right.
so whether you'll make the city aware in terms of what you want to do, and the city can or cannot support them, and if they can't support them, the Friends Group does so many different things,
Right.
or we'll write for grants,
Right.
right? You know, we'll research and write for grants, and that way,
That's a great idea.
yeah, because then that way you can say, when you're writing for grants, it's the story that you tell.
Right.
And the reality of what you've accomplished so
Right.
far, and you've done a really good job there. So like, your timing is good
Right. Right. I tell you,
to
there's
pursue it now.
one thing that I also did realize is that we are doing a lot of things that it's just funny. Sometimes in like the bigger libraries, what I noticed was that I went to it was about digital literacy and not leaving patrons behind in this whole digital revolution that's moving such a rapid race. Like it's so easy for any of us to fall behind. What I learned is a lot of these bigger library systems, they run up against politics, and they run up against administration, and because we are so small, like we kind of get to pick and choose, and like let's try this. If it doesn't work, then we will move on to the next thing. And they're unable to do that because they hit the roadblock right away with their administration saying, no, we shouldn't do that. So there's I think we have a lot of freedom here and a lot of, and a staff that lets us try new things, and experiment and, kind of find what works for this community. So in a way, it was kind of refreshing, and be like, oh, that's one problem that we don't have, And then, yeah, we are doing a lot of things that other libraries, and I think it is because we're small and we have a small community, and unlike, I forget, someone was talking about like being able to learn your patrons' names, and I'm like, wait, what? That's like we do that. That's like the first thing we do, like But like they're also dealing with so many more people. So like you can have such a tailored experience at our library because we do know you and we do get to know you, and people come to me and they ask me like, have I read this before? And I know if they have or not, and it's like, yeah, you did,
You like it too.
or like people use apps to get reading recommendations, and we know what you like to read, and we can make recommendations on that. So that was really, I think, empowering, knowing that we are doing things that other libraries wish that they can do. Granted, we are two very different library systems, but I thought that was really, I took away that as being like, well, cool, that's good to know that others are striving for that. So it was a great experience all in all. It really was. Already looking at, do I have to win another award? Do we have to win another award for me to go next year? Or I can figure out a way to do that. But I think it's pretty worthwhile. And you meet so many different. At the one banquet dinner, I was sitting with a librarian who works in Brooklyn, and how different is that, compared to our library, and not that you want to talk library shop the whole time, but it's fun to know certain things that libraries are doing. I think that's cool. And really, unless there's any other questions, I don't have anything else, unless I'm missing something.
Well, I appreciate the discussion on the policy for the young adult materials. I don't think, I can't remember at the moment when we've had a discussion that was directly involved with a policy. I mean, maybe when Peg was here a number of years ago, I think there was some discussion at some point about overdue books or something.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that discussion and make that decision is rare for this group, I think.
Yeah, and so will this be, when will the council be talked?
Well, we'll
just a thing.
fine tune it, and then it's putting it on the agenda and presenting it. I'll let you all know.
Right, yeah,
And that would
then we
be-
can step up to the plate then.
But yeah, I mean, what they, I don't foresee any, first of all, it's not radical. There's other libraries that are doing it, and
In the same system,
in the same system.
4 or 5 of them.
Right, exactly. And this is exactly our mission. We live in a community where there's a lot of, poverty, and to take out any kind of hurdle that will come in the way of someone bettering themselves and someone, using our library to achieve great things. I think if we can just get rid of that, then, that's one less hurdle. So I thank you all for your support on that. And I don't have the next meeting date, but we're looking at October. then you guys can motion for adjournment if you're ready.
Okay, okay,
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
Yeah, what's up?
So,